Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Welcome back to Edessa. In this particular scene, Alkadir has received a message of a private matter wishing to meet with another individual. Knowing that the curfew is in full effect and punishment will be quick and severe, he has decided, maybe somewhat against his nature, to meet this person. Since he's a new resident, if anyone was wishing to see him, it must be at least some validity of importance. But he decided to meet this individual in a nearby place of his haven in the Jewish quarters. But hoping the conversation to be brief, he simply waits and hopes that this is not an ambush or anything of that nature.
Well, your clanmate shows up on time with a small escort, and she's not particularly. Her escort stays at a distance, but you get the sense that she's possibly roaming these streets with the blessing of the watch, if that helps him at all. Um, but she doesn't bring armed men into Alcader's presence. Um, do you have you taken the time to find out much about your clanmates in the city?
I was told that there was so very little, and that
Okay.
they would eventually find me in the sun,
Yes.
and I guess they did.
Yes, exactly. One of them has found you. Um, so she approaches you through the dark. She carries herself like a noblewoman. It basically there's a small figure moving towards you through the street. Are you in a building or are you outside?
Um, I would be in I guess, a shaded area
Okay.
outside, just banging the building. Yeah, he wouldn't want to stay in the building because he would want to quickly move out.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, she approaches you in the street. Do you need Dodson medicine? Where does she go?
I think I might have one. I have Dodson
Me
Hearth
too.
Wisdom. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Are we in a dice roller?
I have not chose. I typically pick dice roll or two, but it doesn't matter.
Sure,
Whatever.
works. Did you give it a name?
Oh, no, I have not decided on the name. So,
No worries. Okay, so as she comes toward you and as she moves into the light more, can I please get a perception medicine roll?
yes. And I do not have my aspects on, so I do not get the bonuses. Correct.
Okay. I mean, you can turn it on if you want.
No?
It's a free action if you'd like to turn it on as she's coming toward you, but you do not have to.
I guess he would probably have it on because he's already doing something that's supposed to. So
Sure.
early warning would be always best in this situation. And if I can look at my own sheet properly, there we go. I know what my perceptions for. It's my medicine suit. You just told me I could pay attention to things. Yeah.
It's all good.
Let's see.
Okay, so you have three successes. That's pretty darn good. As she lowers her veil and smiles at you, you notice that there are major bags under her eyes. Her cheekbones stand out in sharp relief. She's obviously a beautiful woman, and she obviously is someone who takes care of herself and is used to being a beautiful woman, but you don't see any signs of plague, you don't see any signs of illness, but she is thin as a rail in a way that Canaanites usually aren't. It looks to you like she's starving, which is not doesn't match anything you've heard about her. But her smile is genuine and friendly and interested. She gives you a long, very curious look, and then offers a bow.
Uh, he sees her, and his face goes from the concern as in being caught or being in a poor position to more of a concern in a sense of empathy to her situation. And he will bow return, but his face is soured, and he'll just simply look at her and goes, "said, my dear, you shouldn't have come here like this. I should have came to you."
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a pleasure to see you, and I appreciate the meeting. It is no trouble. Truly, it is no trouble. And it was past time that we meet. I've been I've been laying in bed too long. I hope that it hasn't been too much trouble for you.
No, no. I've, I guess I would say I've strongly established myself, but I've already have at least a positive influence with a few individuals.
She nods. Well, it is. She kind of glances around and stops her thought and smiles. I'm not used to meeting behind buildings like lovesick children, but these are strange nights.
Edessa has proven itself to be a lively place ever since I arrived.
Yes, it is that. Please, will you sit? And she gestures towards some boxes or whatever there is in the alley. Kind of glances around them a little fastidiously, and then picks one to seat herself on.
Uh, he looks at her with a little bit confusion. Not like the gesture is misplaced,
Hmm.
in the sense that like that was rude for her to ask her. It's more like he doesn't feel the situation's appropriate to sit down, and he'll simply say, "I don't." As I do appreciate the offer, I think it'd be best for both of us to be ready to move if uh, errant guard is doing his duty.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it if they do.
Then with that, he will sit down.
I have my own followers keeping watch, and she just kind of gestures down the road.
You're proving yourself to be more capable than I. I did not bring my my particular guardian. I do believe
No,
he deserves his breaks.
not at all more capable. I am a vizier. People are my business, and I have simply employed people tonight. And well, I would be sadly remiss if I didn't have a chance to get to know you. Just a
Uh,
little.
I'm glad you're willing to take interest of me. I was told there wasn't very much of our plan to be here. I didn't expect to meet anybody unless it was of an urgent matter.
No, I have no urgency. Only I like to know who has my back, what swords are available, and what needs need met among our clan. It
Uh,
is imperative that we work together.
and he nods to that. He, and he says, then I guess this may be a little formal. And if I need to look up the thing that Chris showed me about, he gave me something specific. Need to find that message real quick.
Sure.
Oh, I am Al Kadir of the Quran Brotherhood. Said, child A of Amin, brother to Hasum al-Din. Said, member of the sect of sorcery of Clan Asamite.
She lays one hand against her heart and bows again, accepting the introduction. And then she offers her own, which I don't have handy because it's still early in my morning and I'm an idiot. 1 second. Yeah, I don't have that. She, Oh, sorry. She lets you know that her name is Hebony, and she is a vizier of Clan Asamite. And of the blood of Abdul, who you recognize as another Asamite in the city. And she informs you she's a friend, which is it's a little bit strange coming from her haunted eyes, but her smile seems absolutely genuine.
Yeah. He nods at this. Well, it's good to have friends. So, and I'm
It is.
glad that Vizier resides within the city. I wasn't sure, honestly, if I could do my tasks by myself with my skill set.
Let me know what you require, and we shall find ways. Our
He
blood
nods.
compels us.
I'll make sure to gather. I will make sure to ask of your help. So I'm hoping, with the slaying of the beast that terrorized these streets, and a possible creation of a enchanted artifact with a member of the city, I will be able to gain my foothold this way.
Will you tell me more about this beast?
It's it was an interesting thing. It was abnormally large. It was that of a bear, but the characteristics of a wolf. It was, and he says, and his face shows like it's kind of conflicted,
Mm-hmm.
and he finally says it was an animal, and in the truest definition of the word, it was benign. His actions weren't malevolent, and I could say that for a fact because he was able to interfere with my mental connection with a canine, and I felt his presence. It was not of an animal that was curious, that was young. And the fact that it could even interrupt my magic is very unsettling to say the least. And I'm not sure if it could do it by itself or it has a possibility of mimicry. It was able to reflect or was able to copy the discipline of untenebration after seeing another Canite use it.
Terrifying.
Indeed so. And I believe to a strong enough level that it was able to not only cloak itself in darkness but use it as lens. I hear rumors that only people with the least intermediate skill of the art can do such a thing. But I am not a clan La Sombra, so I cannot say for sure.
She nods very slowly. A beast with powers of the blood.
Mm.
Very peculiar.
The more peculiar thing about it was it could speak.
It spoke. What did it say? It spoke in what tongue?
It was French, I believe. Maybe. It was a mixture of dialects. I felt it was. I believe the actual term is like city speak. It's kind of just a combination of tongues that people kind of understand.
Okay, uh-huh.
And when a particular individual arrived, it said mother to it before she slayed it. We were ready to capture it and study the beast. Another party thought it deserved final death.
That sounds like a very interesting confrontation. To capture it and study it.
There was, and there's a spit of disdain in his tone, a Tremere with us when we engaged the beast.
I see. Perhaps it was wise not to give it into the study of the Tremere. Are you a curious man?
I am always seeking knowledge to better myself.
She kind of sits back and studies you for a minute, um, just kind of scanning your face and taking your measure. I hope that it serves you well.
Akeem wishes the best of us, and I will give him that.
Yes. Yes, he does. Well, in your endeavors, you're not alone. Tell me more. What's brought you to the city? What do you hope to accomplish here?
I was brought to the city purely on obligation. I was asked by Amin to establish a strong connection at Edessa. He felt, excuse me, that the Assamite influence was weak here, and we need to establish ourselves with the other clans in a more positive light. He said he had a feeling that we've always had somewhat of a, let's just say, animosity with the other clans. He wanted to remind them that we're still all children of Cain and we should work together in a brighter future. He asked me to more or less be a beacon for him.
She's still watching you. This is a very interesting thing for you to say, and she doesn't necessarily look like you're wrong, but a look crosses over her face that is maybe guilty or offended. It's hard to say. She um frowns.
Oh, I do find it odd. If we had a vizier within the residence, you should have asked for another vizier to do it. I feel that, especially since you are here and we have met, he wants to take advantage of and he'll simply say, let's just say, my managerial skills. I assisted my brother, a sentinel of the clan, in many of his endeavors, and I helped establish house in many areas. So I always thought it was odd that he wanted me to be a spearhead in a sense of diplomacy, one that wasn't necessarily something that I was strong at.
Well, that is interesting. There are a few of us in the city, viziers, but I am pleased to have another sorcerer. Very pleased. I can imagine you as a man who is good at forming connections, but if you say it is not a strong point, perhaps you will need a change as much as the city does.
And he nods to that. It is asked of me, and I am more than willing to give it. But I have a hard time playing, let's just say, the long game.
Do you? Well, perhaps I can be of assistance. What is it you struggle with?
I know the words that say, at least on a beginner's level when it comes to court, and I know, and I can read people. Uh, but I won't deny I use my ability of sight beyond sight to make it a bit easier on myself.
She nods. That doesn't strike her as bad in any way.
So, at best, I'm good at lying to people, but that is known for all Canaanites. We cannot truly be honest with the mortals. At least most of them we can't be.
No, no, in many ways, I'm afraid not. And she stopped. Like she's been very much like paying close attention to you and very much absorbed in this. And as soon as you say that, her eyes just kind of wander away, and she just stares down the road without really seeing anything.
Kadir will kind of go stiff and or not stiff, but be very alert, and he'll just kind of say in a whisper, "Should we? Do we need to depart?"
I'm sorry, no, no. I'm stalked by my own thoughts, and not by any mortal watchman. All is well. As well as it can be. So you have come to help straighten out the affairs of the clan, to present a pretty face. And she's watching him again as she said it. It's not an insult. She's not by any means insulting him. It's a compliment. Like she kind of glances him over with a practiced eye for someone who's used to taking the measure of someone and approves. She's basically saying he's good looking and will represent them well. And it amuses her. You've
It is.
already. Sorry, go ahead.
He says, they asked me to be a beacon, but and he looks over more to it's is it Hebron or Hebron?
Ebony.
Ebony, sorry.
Sorry.
Nah. Ebony and goes, I am to be a beacon, but I have no qualms in resigning myself to somebody who's more skilled. I am more than willing to assist you in your endeavors. I do believe the main intent is to make the Aksumite presence strong and reliable within Edessa.
Then a beacon I am pleased to have. Very pleased. I look forward to working with you and to seeing your work and your advancement.
He nods to that. I feel this curfew will slow my endeavors. I'm trying to make certain trades, and its curfew makes it difficult. I am curious. Do you know why? The curator did not say specifics.
The city has been so troubled. Plague and crime. Death, murder. The mortals are afraid. They seek a control that eludes them. And so they fill the streets with swords and silence.
I just find it odd. It hampers us more than anything. Our time is already so limited.
Is that not the goal? If death walks the street, do not empty the street.
And he nods.
She looks you in the eye and she says, we are murderers, are we not?
We are many things, no different than the humans. Well, that's not true. The humans know very little. But they're just as much as they are murderers and as they are saints. We are just compelled to be we're just compelled for the former over the latter. But as I think that we all can agree on, we can rise above it in our own little special ways.
I take your words to heart. I hope that that is the sort of man that you are, to rise above. Though we are
I
called to it by our blood, it's a difficult, difficult path.
that it is. But I've been on a very well established road for quite a bit of time. What long before I was even embraced. I've been part of the blood for since I was a child.
She studies you and nods her approval, her interest is obvious. That seems to capture her fancy. She's intrigued. And now that you've shared in the blood, does it still call you? Are you still compelled by the same second? By the same morals?
I would say very much so. My my family, where how you say, we weren't under the term that I believe the Shimei called revenants. Not completely. We were in the know, and we were raised to be potential ghouls, as me and my brother eventually were at a time. And they trained and established and bred us to go into particular tasks that they felt that we were more capable of. It. My brother was more greater at the acts of violence. I was more suited for housekeeping, knowledge, and study.
Hmm.
I, it was more interesting when I was established in the sorcerer sect as a ghoul. They don't necessarily teach us the ways, but they make us known to us, and the ones who show the most promise are chosen. I was one of them.
She nods and smiles, and it's again, it's approving. It's admiring, maybe. Are you very old then?
Historically, depends on who you talk to, I guess, possibly.
I'm sorry. You're correct. Yes, very old is a difficult question among those of us who walk the night.
I was police schooled for almost a decade. I was in my early 20s. My brother, he's a little bit older than me, so he might have been Gould a year or two more. He was embraced sooner too.
And who is your brother? How fares he these nights?
Ugh,
He's a warrior?
yes, that's what he was chosen for. Aldine was he was interesting. I always looked up to my brother. I wanted to join him in combat and be a warrior like him, but he had a certain something that I just simply didn't have. Uh, as one of the sorcerers described it, they say that he had the savagery of Sebek along with his nobility.
Savagery? Nobility? Those things don't seem to stand hand in hand.
In certain ways it can, in certain ways it doesn't. There is, so despite what some would say, best way to put it, my brother didn't believe in abusing his power, but when it was used to the utmost effect and the utmost, best way to put it, tactless behavior. He's not beyond using dirty tricks and, no way to put it, disgraceful tactics.
And you?
Me, I think the best way to put it, as my brother would say to me, I was simply too slow. Too slow, too patient.
Both are needed. But what
But
does
they
he do
both have
now?
their times.
What is that?
He said they both have their times.
Yes. Yes, you're correct.
It was easier for me to gather tomes, make sure equipment was well furbished, food was on the table, clothes were clean, children were taken care of.
Intriguing. But it is a sorcery that called to you when you stood before the blood.
It was what was chosen for me. I already established my intellect with them. I learned many languages, even before I was embraced. Read many tomes that they allowed me to read. I saw that I was a paragon of erudite nature, and they felt that it would have been a waste not to put me in the sect. I was not as charismatic as my brother, so they did not see me as a vizier, nor was I as skilled as combat. So, to a point, they took a risk on me when they put me into the sorcerer sect. But even then, I had to prove myself as a ghoul to even be chosen to be embraced. If not, I simply be an assistant.
Yes, I think your humility does you credit, and yet you do not do yourself enough credit. You have walked a difficult path. You walk it still. I can see in the way you carry yourself. A
As I
humble
appreciate,
sorcerer.
as I appreciate it, I'm aware of how young I am and how little I've done in the grand scheme of things. So I must keep myself away from grandeur and more on the reality of the situation.
Very well, I will not tempt you to grandeur.
But maybe one day I can. I believe the term I've heard from the ones further to the east: stop and smell the roses.
She smiles at him. It's small and sad. We don't get much time for roses, do we?
We're always in some type of struggle. There are times and times, there's time from time, if I'm not studying, I can enjoy a game with the tarot. Speak to the people around me. But we must always be vigilant. It's our calling.
Yes. I am pleased that you are here to improve our relations with the other clans. We cannot. And I think that I speak to. I will not teach my grandmother to suck eggs when I say that we cannot allow our friendliness to impair our judgment. We cannot fail to look too closely at those who have betrayed their blood, have given themselves over to the beast, and still pretend to some humanity.
I have not forgotten the law of judgment.
No, I did not think you had.
Oh, I am curious. They let reside one of the most treacherous of our kind in the city. Not only that, they have just newly announced one of them to be a hound of the sheriff. This disturbs me so.
She nods. And again, you see that possibly guilty, possibly offended look cross her face. She sits up a little bit. I have been away from the city, not of my own free will.
Eh, he nods to that.
The reins are slipping. They have slipped. And as she says that, she just kind of absently, without really thinking about it, starts to scratch at her wrist with one hand scratching the opposite wrist. And she's scratching very hard. You're pretty sure that if she didn't have a canite's skin, she might be drawing blood, but she doesn't seem to realize she's doing it.
Do not blame yourself. Even if we're to establish, even if our influence was stronger, it would not deny their supposed penitence. I I am debating whether or not if I should try to establish myself stronger with the sheriff. I would prefer I would like to do so and to keep the city protected. But the more I can keep my distance from the warlocks, the better I'd feel. But it's not about what I feel, I guess.
What do you know of the sheriff?
Ventrue, he has a very strong sense of nobility. Some may say borderline arrogance, but that's just what I see. Very old. He seems rather old, very powerful. Very skilled with the blade. And I have the feeling that he has a very, very strong grasp of the blood of this city in more ways than one. I cannot compare. I cannot hope to compete with that, but I could hopefully maybe draw upon it.
And what do you see in his heart?
I see Ventrue. I don't know him well enough to see any further than that.
If you seek this relationship, if you make this connection with him, I'd like to know what you see in his heart. It is our hearts that guide our feet, that guide our hunger.
Hmm.
If you know the heart of a man, you can guess where his feet will take him, no?
He nods to that. That would not be an easy task. It, and I will do my best. I'm hoping I should speak to him soon. The making a weapon of cold iron will impress him.
She smiles at him and says, they have no need of the Tremere. Hakim's children are here.
And he nods to that.
We may not have the ruthlessness of the Tremere. We have scruples instead. The powers of the blood should be always ruled by scruples. It will not be easy to convince them that it is a fair trade. But I am pleased that you are here to help.
Indeed. Well, I'm hoping with if we're able to make this weapon properly, if we're able to duplicate it in a steady rate, that this will gather not only strength with me and possibly the Sombra, but also with the sheriff.
Tell me, I do not know the properties of this weapon you speak of. This is a mysticism beyond me. Can you speak of it? Or is this a
Yeah.
secret?
If done correctly, it should be able to affect creatures of our nature with the same sting of fire and sun. I have studied the waters in Abraham's fountain. If it is not properly contained, even a ghoul will feel the burn of it. I am expecting to squelch this blade within that waters, and hopefully retain those same effects. Oddly enough, the water does not repulse, it simply hurts. So it can still be used, just have to be used carefully.
She nods very thoughtfully.
Well,
And once forged, can you keep it?
I have made an obligation to use it for the beast, though since the beast has already been slain, the property of the item is now in the air. I can hopefully convince the the blacksmith to give it as a prize in our name to the sheriff.
Where's the blacksmith?
Memnon of Clan La Sombra.
She nods. If the blade has power, we shall have to be very careful, leaving
Indeed,
it in the hands of either Ventrue or La Sombra. But it does sound like something very useful and a good demonstration of our knowledge. You're
yes,
correct. It's a good reminder that though the Tremere may throw around their fire and casually fling their magics, that we are the sorcerers of Cain. She struggles with the phrase of Cain. You can see of Hakim on her lips, like her heart says we're the magic of Hakim rather than Cain. But she's trying to talk in terms of dealing with other Cainites.
he nods. It is interesting. But, and he says the term, we are children of the king, though we have our dark grandfather. But in the end, do we reside within our grandfather or our father? Unfortunately, depending on of the words that you hear upon the air in certain tombs, grandfather was complicated.
She looks at you with eyes that are shining with a kind of dark and rueful laughter. Um, and she says, a very apt metaphor. In that sense. In that sense, I am my father's daughter. And yet I would not see my cousins stray. And she realizes she's scratching her wrist and her hand tightens for a second. The bones stand out under the skin. And then she pulls it away and pulls her sleeve down to hide the mark she's left.
Kadir will look over to her and with sadness in his eyes. What troubles you? What brings famine to your body?
There's a long silence. She sits very still and quiet and doesn't watch him. She kind of watches past like his elbow. Her eyes are lowered and um not focused on him. She seems to be. Oh, go ahead and roll perception empathy.
And my aspect's off because I am reassured that, we have protection. So he turned that off.
Okay.
Let's establish that. Excuse me.
Okay. You get the sense that she's what's the word I want? She's very poised. She has the poise of a sparrow, kind of thin and there's a lot that can be covered by feathers, but she's not quite sure how to answer your question in a way that you will approve of. She
You don't have
seems
to answer.
nervous about it.
You're my elder, and everybody has their secrets. But it pains me to see you in such a condition.
I'm only your elder by a little. Thank you for your concern. You need not worry. I will fulfill my duties. I will not fail our blood. I've had difficult nights. I was the less than honored guest of a band of vengeful mortals outside the city gates for a very long time. They were aware of.
His eyes go very hard when you say that. And
She stops and, like, the change in his expression stops her, and she um kind of waits, watching him.
like it's not hard to read that he's upset hearing something like that would happen to her.
Hmm.
And he just simply responds, "Did you did you make sure you retrieved proper judgment on them, or not judge proper vengeance on them?"
Ooh, ouch. Hang on. She has to roll a thing. Oh man. Okay, let's have her. If you want to roll perception empathy, you can. You may reactivate aspects if you want. If he would.
Uh, I, that's only in case he felt danger. He's not trying to learn
Hmm.
her secret.
Okay. Okay, you have 4 successes. Um, she struggles to hide it. She struggles very much. She only has 1 success. Um, to hide that question cuts her to the bone. That look of guilt is deep, um, and it's a very complicated emotion that washes over her face. I should probably have her roll frenzy. No, no, he didn't insult her or anything. It's just a moment of strong feeling. But you basically watch that question like move through her like lava. You know what I mean? It's visible the effect it has. Um, but she smiles at you, kind of a sad, thin smile, and she says, "I was rescued by a child of Clan La Sombra, and the Venture took my vengeance. The problem is solved by our sheriff. The encampment, the little city, was razed to the ground.
Kadir closes his eyes and takes a moment to breathe. At least it was done, and I guess we have obligations amongst those two. Better than a Tremere or a Sedite. So,
A child of La Sombra. She's a sweet girl. A child no longer, I suppose. She's a neonate now, as we are, and powerful in her own ways. I admire her. As for the sheriff, I hope you will learn his heart and tell me what is in it. I do not know if I owe him a debt yet. I certainly owe him no debt that the courts will enforce.
I will not pry in such a matter. But if ever a boon will be called from you, do not deny me. Do not deny me the opportunity to help you.
Oh no, no boons. Thank you. Thank you for the offer. No boons have been asked. And I am returned to the city and I have a great deal of work to do. But this, and she reaches out to touch his hand.
He doesn't necessarily have plus of health, but his road rating is 8.
Mhm.
So I believe I remember reading it right. You can able you mimic the effects, though it's not as strong as being a splash of health.
Uh-huh. I see. So you're saying it's warm? His hand's
Yeah,
warm? Interesting. I think that's only Road of Humanity. The
yeah,
Road of Kings that he's on is an aura of command.
yeah. Sorry.
Um,
Nope. Then my hands would be cold.
her fingers are also cold.
Yep.
Um, and bloody because she's been scratching herself. There's blood under her nails, but she it's not so bad that she leaves like blood on his hand when she touches his skin. But this is my duty here in the city to speak with those of our clan and to assist them.
He nods at that. Well then, well, I more than appreciate the help of the family.
If you are to make a name for Clan Asimite, a greater name to improve our standing, of course you cannot do it alone. If you will report to me, tell me what you find. Tell me what obstacles stand in your path.
And he nods to that. For now, I'm hoping to establish myself with the people. That should be the ground. That should be the establishment for any diplomatic any type of diplomacy. Without the people, the city cannot exist. I'm hoping to be able to create many useful items for the court and develop potential magics outside of the Tremere's influence to not only show our skill but our superiority.
Alhamdulillah. Thanks be to God. I
And
think you are what we need.
I thank you. So, so, my lady, if you would have anything uh, that you could give me, I would much appreciate.
I will look. I will look for opportunities to assist you.
No, I would like a physical token of you.
Oh,
It's
um,
and he kind of sits on his word for it. Not such a manner I can use it to make sure that we have a mental connection so we can communicate long distances without moving if necessary.
She nods and takes a bracelet from her wrist um, and gives it to him.
And he takes it. Said, I will make sure to do it tonight. You will know when I. You will know when it's ready.
Very well. I thank you.
More than welcome. So, especially with this curfew, this will be very useful to us.
Yes. Yes, I hope that our clan will find this less trying than others, and we may be needed if others find difficulties.
Indeed, if the if you're able to establish connection with the rest of the clan, I would like a piece. I would like a physical token from them as well. That way we can all speak to each other in council and in private.
She nods. I'll see what can be done.
Thank you.
She slides to her feet and gives him another smile. Is there anything else that I can help you with this evening?
Not that I can think of at this moment.
Then it
And
has been a pleasure to meet you.
he stands and, well, bow deeply, and then he'll say, "It was," and then he will say, "Yeah, words." So, so under the, yeah, excuse me. Saying, oh, saying, said under the blessing of Hakim, I wish you a proper night, and I hope I respect the law of leadership properly today.
She grins at him and says, I find you blameless in the eyes of Hakim.
And he has a smile on his face. I thank you for your proper judgment.
Do you require assistance getting home? I would be pleased to escort you. The watch will not trouble us.
I chose this place to be for a reason. It is near my haven, so I should be able to move quickly.
I commend you for your resourcefulness. Good evening.
Evening.
And she smiles and goes moving, not quickly, but not slowly either. She heads up the street at the pace of someone who has shit to do towards supposedly her men waiting there, and disappears from his sight.
And with that, I believe this scene has come to an end. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Have a good morning, evening, or night.